It makes me specific to a given place at a given time. My behavior confirms this consequence. I feel I am sitting here under the spell of time. Conditioned by things around me. I know that as your reflection, I am conditioned by the reflecting surfaces, the movements, the changes. I know all that. And yet, out of habit, and vasanas created from prarabdha, I have not yet developed the habit of seeing that I am just a reflection. In fact, with the understanding, a clear understanding that I am a reflection, my identity shifts to the real you. That identity is all pervasive, not isolated. I just am. I am not here. I am not this. I am just aware. I am, and I am awareness. This is you, O Ishvara. Even though I know this, I have not yet obtained the strength of keeping this vision. O Ishvara, with the help of such meditations, may I request you to help me keep the vision that what I think to be real is just a reflection. I am in fact the unchanging you. Thank you. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Are you going to use the TV?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to use the TV, you think?
Oh, yes. Not for this class, sorry.
Not for this class.
Not for this class. I don't think so. Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krit Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Gukarastvandakaro Vai Gukarastanivartakaha Adhyaknirodhitvat Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us chant verses number 15, 16, 17 and 18. We're going to hopefully do all four. May not be able to, but let's chant. So, starting with verse number 15 of the Advaita Prakaranam. Mrit loha vispulangadyahi. Mrit loha vispulangadyahi. Vispulangadyahi. Shrishtirya choditanyatha. Shrishtirya choditanyatha. Upayaso vataraya. Sovataraya. Nasti bhedah kathanchana. Ashramas trividha hina. Ashramas trividha hina. Madhyamot Krishta Drishtayah. Madhyamot Krishta Drishtayah. Upasano upadishteyam. Tadartham anukampaya. Swasiddhanta vyavasthasu. Swasiddhanta vyavasthasu. Dvaitino nishchita dridham. Parasparam virudhyante. Tairayam na virudhyate. Advaitam paramartho hi. Dvaitam tad bheda uchyate. Tesham ubhayatha dvaitam tenayam na virudhyate. So the name of this prakaranam, as you know, is Advaita Prakaranam. Advaita Prakaranam. So the Prakaranam, which is 46 verse long, is meant to establish the Swarupa of Advaitam. You know, Advaita Vedanta, this is what we are studying, and Advaita means that non-duality, the very sense of non-duality. And so this chapter is devoted to clarifying and explaining what Advaitam really means. And as we will go through today's, you will see how this presents itself in our life, and how do we react to it, how do we react to the other schools of thought. All of those are being taken up. And it started with the explanation of Mahakasha Ghatakasha. That really speaking, the Ghatakasha, or a pot space or a room space, is does not present a Dvaitam. There's no Dvaitam. It's not as though you can say that this room is separate from that room. It's okay. That from an Upadhi standpoint, it is okay. But the reality of the space is that it is never be cut. And so whether you have a blue space or no blue space, space is just always space. So this is the explanation of the Ghatakasha and Mahakasha that we have been doing up until now. Now, a discussion about some doubts about this vision, and even what the Vedas say is being taken up in order to clarify the vision of Advaita. And these doubts are stating that, wait, first of all, if Advaita was the vision of the Vedas, then why does it even talk about karma and about upasana? Because both karma and upasana require Dvaitam. There is something that there is a doer for something, so for something is a different one. Upasana means that you are praying to a devata, so the devata is separate from you, and it is not as though the Vedas casually mentions it. It is in fact very devoted to the concept of karma, as you know very well, that in the Vedas, I think I read that somewhere, Swami Maheshananji had pointed this out, that the number of shlokas in the Vedas, I used to think it is 99%, it is less than that, it is more like 90%. So the 90% of the shlokas in the Vedas are karma kanda. Then another 7% is based on upasana kanda. And only 2 or 3% are devoted to jnanam. So the objectioners say that if Vedas is spending 97% of its teachings based on karma and upasana, which is based on Dvaitam. Let me take this off. Then there is Dvaitam. Then how can you say there is Advaitam? And in fact, there are schools of thought which say that let there be, sometimes it is Dvaitam and sometimes it is Advaitam. In fact, Ramanujam's Vishishta Advaita is based on this kind of a thinking. There the thinking is that let there be two states. One is that the human being, they say that the human being is a limited person and the limitation is a reality, and then the non-limitation of the human being starts with some kind of upasana and karma, etc., and then it becomes infinite. So there are two states. One is limited and one is the unlimited. Why can't you take it that? This doesn't make any sense. You cannot say, why doesn't it make sense? Because you cannot say the unlimited began. Because the unlimited means that it was not there before. So that means it is limited. So we say that this kind of thinking is not correct. Yes, there is in fact a drishti of, there is a vision of limitedness. We don't disagree with that. But it is within Advaitam. It is not separate from Advaitam. Anyway, so this all will come about in the next 4 verses, and it is in order to explain all this, this vision of Advaitam is being given. But here, going back to it, the objectioner says that the Vedas itself talks about the Dvaitam. It is your Vedas. And how do you explain that? So that is being given here in verse number 15, 16, 17, etc. So in number 15, it says that Mrit Loha Visphulangadyahi. So Mrit means the clay, Loha means the iron, and Visphulinga means all these sparks that are generated. And so through these examples, it is being pointed out that in fact there is a stage of understanding. So as we discussed it before, if you tell someone that the room space, we are talking about the room space, and then we are talking about the total space. So we begin with having duality. When you start the discussion by saying room space. Do you understand room space? So that the person says yes. Do you understand total space? He says yes. So you start with duality, but then you negate it. So the duality mentioned in the Vedas is just a starting point. Similarly, in the case of teaching, when the teaching is given, then the teacher and the student have some duality. But when the understanding takes place, that duality is removed. Because you are also nothing but Satchidananda Atma. I am also nothing but Satchidananda Atma. And so that becomes a vision which was not there before. It was a non-understanding. So similarly, the very famous example of the rope and snake. The rope and snake are not two different things, because they are not on the same level of reality. Yes, they appear to be different, but they are not really different. And so this should be kept in mind. That is the basic. That's the basic idea about these the explanation of Advaita Vedanta. So going back to number 15, it says it is upaya for avataraya, for the understanding of non-duality. There's no real duality. It is just only for the understanding of it that the Vedas resorts to karma and upasana. And in fact, this is explained further in the verse number 16. It says, Ashramaha trividha hinaha madhyaha utkrishta drishtayaha. Ashrama, and here Swami Maheshananji also points out that ashramam as you means is the 4 quarters of the human being, which is, when you're from birth to 25 approximately, should be all about learning about everything, about languages, about mathematics, about your skills that you want to take, etc., etc. This is why Swami Dayananji used to say that. He says, I am personally opposed to making any student work for a living. He says that should be avoided. 25 is just an approximate one and can also be changed. But he says that I don't think that you should have your child distribute papers to make a living, to teach them how to make a living. He says that doesn't make any sense. It should be, your job should be to learn and to study, and I will support you. So that's the first ashrama. Then the second ashrama is, whatever you have learned, you now apply into building a family, supporting the family, enjoying life, and be secure for the rest of your life. That's an important one, all the way from 25 to approximately 50. Then from 50 to 75, you now have to prepare for sannyasa. So prepare for sannyasa means that your family should start to become secondary. And then the children have their own children, and they need your support, and you give them the support, but you're not primarily responsible for the education of your grandchildren. Your children should be. So you're now gone on to the next stage. You have to now think about where to retire, and also very importantly, as this is in the Vanaprastha stage. In the Vanaprastha stage, you should be mature enough not to have a sense of possession. This is the most important one. And I think for married people this is a great advice, because I see that as a very good goal, where just like you have attitude towards friends, your attitude towards spouses should be just like that. It isn't. In fact, it gets worse. You're supposed to do this, I told you to do this, your habits are bad, and so this all stems from a sense of possession and expectation. And in fact, Vanaprastha, which is the third stage, is where if you treat your spouse just as much as you do with your friends, you've arrived. You can get mad at friends. How come you never call me? What kind of a friend? This happens all the time. If you think you're my friend and I haven't heard you for, this is appropriate. You tell your friend, but you don't have a real fight. You have expectations and so on, but you're nice to them. We are not nice to our spouses. And so the Vanaprastha, and that was okay during the Grihastha stage, but in Vanaprastha, the disengagement should become number one. And then in sannyasa, which is the fourth ashrama, you should be completely independent of everything. Just to eat and to maintain your body is really all that you need to do, and it should be totally devoted to an understanding of the self and so on and so forth. So these are the 4 ashramas. And also, here Swami Maheshananji says, whenever the word ashrama is given, the word varna should also be included. Is ashrama, varna ashrama, they say, varna ashrama. So varna means how your propensity towards certain things as you were born. So this is the class. And so whether you are a Brahmana, you are a Kshatriya, you are a Shudra, etc. This is the Varna. Means what do you normally like, what are you capable of doing? And to really do this in a very dedicated manner is also part of the ashrama and varna system. So this verse here, number 16, so when it says ashrama, it also includes varna. So he says that the Vedas, because the knowledge of Ishvara, which is Vedas, is the one that created the Varna Ashrama system. So how can you say that it is oblivious to it? It is not. Because it says that really there are 3 types of stages in a human development. So hina means the, relatively incapable. Madhyama means the capability is starting to come about, and Utkrishta means he has arrived. Just like any other knowledge, at first you have complete ignorance, then you have some working on idea, and finally you become an expert. So he says, it is for this reason that the emphasis on karma and upasana is given. Because you cannot take a person who is not yet prepared to go into this study. You cannot just take any person on the street and say, here, I invite you to study Vedanta. How will that be? It doesn't make any sense. You have to prepare you, and it might take several lives. It doesn't have to be done all in this one life. And it isn't. I mean, it is just amazing how different people are. I mean, when you have people who are so callous and criminally oriented and so on, that means they have recently just become a human being. And other people who are just the opposite, who are so forgiving and kind and loving to people and selfless, that means they've been around for a number of human lives and anything in between. So it's a slow process. It doesn't happen just like a switch. So that being the case, the Vedas slowly prepare. And this is the same thing true in our education during the lifetime. When you first, the child is sent to kindergarten, then to first grade, second grade, slowly you bring up. You cannot, it's not a switch that you say, okay, now you become an expert. Similarly here also, he says, ashramaha trividha hina madhya utkrishta drishtayah upasana upadishta iyam upadishta tadartham anukampaya. That means that the English translation of that is that, as you know, there are 3 types of students: inferior, intermediate and superior, and upasana etc. has been taught to them out of compassion. And so that means that, as Swami Tattavirendrana also said, very beautiful answer, which is a refreshing answer that all the acharyas give to the question that how come I do not, the teaching doesn't stay with me, that I'm okay in the class but when I go outside. And his answer was that you don't love it yet. This was really a very appropriate answer, in the sense that really something that you love, nobody has to say, why do I spend so much time in the love of a person or of something, some subject matter. So the upasana is the second grade. Upasana means you now love it. And this is true in any subject matter, really. And for example, chanting. Just take parayana, not even jnanam, just chanting. And what you find is that once you get the hang of chanting with the swaras, it seems so beautiful to your mind. I have really seen people that just want to do chanting all the time. They love chanting. And at first it was work, but then you began to appreciate the sound of it, how it affects your mind, and it is really just so lovely. And I do too, to a certain extent. I also love to chant. I just don't get enough time. For example, I want to really refresh Taittiriya. I want to do that. I used to know it by heart, but because of my work and busy and so on and forth, I've not really repeated it. And so I want to do it because whenever it comes to me, it just is so beautiful. And so I do have a love for chanting. Nobody has to say, hey, why don't you do chanting? No. So the upasana is a prayerful attitude towards Ishvara, where you say, oh my goodness, I really do appreciate you. I appreciate what you are. It's such a funny thing, I tell you. I have to share some personal experience with you. In the, I think it was in the Taittiriya Upanishad, or in one of those cases, where it says, the phalam. Phalam means the results. If you do this, then one of the phalam is, and here Swami Meshananji had explained this so well. One of the phalams is that whatever you desire, you get. Whatever you desire, you get. And this seems like a strange thing. How can you do whatever you desire that you do? But Swami Maheshananji says what happens is that for a person who is not yet studied, you desire things that are not achievable. And so there is a big gap between what you desire and what the other way around, what you desire and what the results are. Is the thing. But then through the study, through the maturity of the mind, you start to narrow this. And I tell you, in my life, I can see that happening. Really see that happening. I had a very interesting experience that happened to me yesterday. So yesterday was a very busy day for me. I had to go attend a project of my younger granddaughter at the school. They had an entrepreneurial project where you had to think about making something and then sell it. So they were making all these paper bags and Christmas cards. All these girls are doing that. This happens every year. So that was at 3:15. Okay. Then, so this was one thing that we were all getting together for that. At 3:15 we had to be there. Then I usually go for my workout, and that takes me a couple of hours and so on. And then I was out of computer paper. And the computer paper was, I had to get it somewhere, and I had to return something to Costco. So after my workout, I went to Costco to get the computer paper, returned something, and now there is 15 minutes left before 3:15, and I have not eaten anything the whole day. So I'm thinking, how am I going to eat? I said, I don't have time to even eat a sandwich, it'll take too long. I said, I wish there is a Taco Bell nearby. The moment I uttered, I saw there was a Taco Bell which I never knew existed. I really did my namaskara to Ishvara, honestly. This is just amazing. Just amazing. And this has been happening more and more. Whatever I see, if I just make a small request which is achievable, it is just given to me right away. Incredible. So this gap between, and it's not as though I'm going to say, okay, I want $1 million by tomorrow. I'm not going to do that because it's not achievable to me. But Taco Bell, yes. And really speaking, I just gulped it down and I got there exactly at 3:15. Everything was just fine. Really good. Incredible. Incredible. There's a Taco Bell on the corner of Arrestadero and San Antonio and Arrestadero. And I was coming on Arrestadero back from Costco, the Mountain View one. And I think I'd seen it before, but it was not in my mind. And I was coming out of Costco. There was a Chipotle. Chipotle means half hour. They give you so much by the time you eat it and so on. So I was thinking if there was some quick thing that I could just get right there. Amazing. And so it just says that the upasana is given at the second stage to the students to start to feel the presence of Ishvara in their lives and to be prayerful to it, and to revel in the presence of it. And there comes a point where you don't worry about what's going to happen to you. If my body falls apart, it falls apart. If I meet an accident, so be it. What doesn't matter? Whatever, I know that it is something which is given for me, and I just have to abide with it. And this sense of relaxation and sitting in the lap of someone else is just amazing, honestly. So this kind of a prayerful attitude is developed through upasana. And it is the second stage. The first stage is Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is the first stage where you begin to see that whatever you are doing is a tool for your own improvement, and for the service of everybody else. So karma is not just to improve your own situation, but to improve your ability to be in the society. That is all Karma Yoga. Then through the end of the Karma Yoga comes Upasana. And Upasana starts with the understanding of the presence of Ishvara, how Ishvara works. Just given to him. So, Sarva Karma Sannyasa, Sharanagati. So that Sharanagati is the result of the Upasana. So Gaudapada is just saying that, listen, yes, there is Upasana which requires Dvaitam. There is Karma Yoga that requires Dvaitam. But this is done for the good of the different ashrama and varna. They understand how the slow growth takes place. Doesn't happen suddenly. And so anukampaya means towards the kindness of the people. And yet, it doesn't mean that the upasana is the last stage. No. It is not the last stage. That also, you are not done. You should feel good that you are moving in the right direction, but you haven't arrived yet. And so for example, he points out that in the Keno Upanishad, in the Keno Upanishad, as you know very well, I'm just reading the exact ones. It says, yan manasa na manute yena ahuhu manomatam tadeva brahmatvam viddhi na idam yad idam upasate. He says, may you know something which is not knowable as a separate thing from you. And yet you have to really put your mind to understanding this concept and not just keep on doing upasana all your life. So ultimately upasana also is negated. So this is the, as Swami Paramarthananda pointed out, so this is the binary vision, not the triangular vision. And so the triangular vision also is a step in the direction of the binary vision. And what is the binary vision? That there is only two of us. There is me, the Brahman, which is totally free of all problems, and there is me, the Jivatma, the Jiva, and the Jiva is nothing but a reflection of the real one. So there is the binary is also nothing but a singular one, which is also Advaita alone. Sense of Dvaita also has been now reduced to a binary vision. And Swami Dayananji used to say this so very well. He says, our acharyas have such a beautiful scheme to structure your thinking in a way that is graspable by your mind. And what does it mean is that whenever you have, so this is the reason for the distinction between vichara and viveka. Vichara is general thinking, and viveka is a specific thinking with respect to a binary situation. So, for example, supposing you have a complex problem that you are solving, which requires a lot of thinking, lot of analysis, discussion, looking at alternatives, all of those kinds of things. This is what would be defined in vichara. And we do this all in our life. Political issues, this, that, or the other different things, health issues and so on. But then the way the acharyas have resolved, and so going back to it before I say that, so we have a certain vision about our life, because our life is very complicated. There's a lot of things happening. Lots of different inputs are being given every minute. And I have to deal with it, I have to solve it, I have to get along with it as best as I can. This is the situation, and it requires a lot of vichara. And the best way to deal with it is to break it down into viveka. And viveka is done in a binary format. Means that should it be this or should it be that? You don't have to worry about everything else. You take one step at a time. And then you just say, and this is why in the discussion of Brahma Sutra, in the Brahma Sutra, which is the final word of the vision of Advaita, the basic tool used in Brahma Sutra is the binary format, where everything is broken down into should it be this or should it be that. I think I've mentioned it to you before. I attended, I know Gajanana had requested me to talk about this, and I still have to do that, but this was the class that I attended with Swami Dayananji, and Swami Paramarthananda was also, all these Swamis were there, and some of us were invited to that who have completed the course. This was in the year, I think, 2002 in Anaikatti. And the section of the Brahma Sutra that Swamiji took was the Antaryami section of Brahma Sutra. So, just to make the point about the binary format, the discussion was, so this is what Vyasa, Badarayana does. Antaryami means who is in charge of running your life. Ante tishthan yamayati yaha is called Antaryami. Who one means one who is sitting inside of you and is regulating your life. Not controlling is not the right word. The one who manages, managing is a good word. Who manages your life is called Antaryami. So the question is, who is this Antaryami? So the discussion about who is the Antaryami can be there as a vichara. Isn't it? Because you can think about, it's not one person. It's a collective effort. Why? Because everyone has an interest in you. Your spouse has an interest in you because if you collapse, then the spouse will have a lot of problems to live alone and so on. Your children have a lot of, and if you have older parents, they have a lot of interest to make sure you stay healthy, to take care of. So like that, there is a lot of interest. So the Antaryami means it's not a single person. But Badarayana takes the review. Let's break it down into two. And the question is the Jiva the Antaryami? Are you the person who think you are? You define yourself. So you say, well, me? All right, I'll define myself. This is me. I have this body, and I've got some thinking, and I have a heart, defective heart, whatever, but I have a heart. It's all work, so this is me. This is me. So are you, if there is only two people, forget about spouses and children and so on and so forth, if there's only two people, the two people are, I give you two choices. You have to choose between one of those two. This is, what is it called? The, what's that exam? The test that is given? Choice. Multiple choices. This is like, it's not a general kind of a thing. You just have to choose which of these this is true. So this is a multiple choice of two people. Are you the Antaryami, or is Ishvara the Antaryami? And so here what happens is, you don't even know who Ishvara is. How can you say Ishvara is the Antaryami? You cannot say that. So you say, why, if you give me those choices, then I am the Antaryami. I am really responsible for it. And other people kind of help me and so on, but really I am the one. And so now, in this Antaryami section, as you know, the way Swami Dhananji had, when they taught us, he said that the Brahma Sutra is used as a Supreme Court, where you have where are lawyers who are arguing for the defendant and the lawyers who are arguing for the accusers. And they've got, there's only two, it's a binary format. It's a binary format. And so in Antaryami also, then in the Antaryami section, only two choices are given. And as human beings, what are we going to do? Do you know that is the wrong answer? The wrong answer. Because, and now how, because wrong answer means what? It is the Ishvara who is running your life. Amazing. And you cannot just say it and stop, because that develops a lot of questions in my mind. What? whether I do my hand here, is Ishvara doing it? Is me doing it? If I look left or right, I'm doing it. Where is Ishvara in this, doing all of this sort of stuff? But this is now explained and explained and explained. This is like lawyers who are saying, no, Your Honor, I am the one who is doing it. And then the other lawyer said, don't listen to him. He's wrong. So the arguments are given, and finally the verdict is given. And the verdict is Ishvara is running your life. And Ishvara running your life is only possible through a lot of thinking, a lot of fact-finding, a lot of inquiry. And in fact, that is exactly the situation. That what happens is that we do not, so for example, the word prarabdha karma, it seems like just a sort of like a Sanskrit word, prarabdha. I don't know what prarabdha means. But the understanding of prarabdha really is just an enormous way of making progress in our life. What that means is that even, forget about your body. Body, this is the thing I really appreciated in studying more in the last few years. The body is easy to understand as prarabdha. Because, even the science also says that these days this is the big topic about the understanding of the body. They're saying you should know what tendencies you have and what problems you're going to have later on in your life. There is a test called LPA, from what I have recently understood. I don't even know what that is. But there it tells you what are the chances you'll develop cancer, you'll develop heart disease, and so on. So your genes are predisposing you to do that. So this is now commonly known, that really I can do a few things for my body, but most of it is decided by prarabdha. This much is easy. But I tell you the insight which is really something much more decisive, much more insightful, is that my mind is also the result of prarabdha. This is really something. Because what it means is that as a thinker, because the mind is a lot closer to us than our body. It's subtle, it's a lot very, very, very close to me, and much closer than the body. And so the mind appears to be me. What I don't understand fully is that the mind is also a product of prarabdha. How I think, what I think, all of that, there is a predisposition. And who is the designer of prarabdha? I mean, you were not even there when the genes were given to you. So you could not have designed. Your mother, father were also not there. This comes from Ishvara. Your mom and dad are nothing but nimitta karanam. You are also a nimitta karanam. But really the designer, the owner, is Ishvara. So the owner being the Ishvara means that both the body and the mind and your tendencies, what you do, is really a product of prarabdha. I have no idea how we got into the details of the prarabdha, so I'll have to come back to it. Anyway, what it means is that your life is is to be regulated with the help of these karmas and upasanas and so on. And upasana also. So in terms of the verse number 16, Utkrishta. Utkrishta is the one where upasana also is now given up. Yeah, the format. We were talking about the binary format. So in the binary format, it means you develop a very simple idea. And this is where the Mandukya Upanishad is so important to study. Because in Mandukya Upanishad, it's all about the binary format. Just look at yourself and see all the stages that you go through. Your sleep state and your dream state and your jagrata avastha, your waking state. And all of them they all cancel each other. But you don't cancel yourself. Who are you? So that discussion is based on a binary format. And there it is said that Utkrishta means the very superior person who is ambitious and he wants to do things quickly should now even given up upasana. Because the upasana means there is fun and pleasure. And fun and pleasure by their very nature are temporary. A sense of peace, a sense of not changing, I'm okay. Fullness is really what you want to get. A temporary pleasure, even though it has a kind of like a flare, is not going to last. That's not the reality. But a sense of peace, of desirelessness, of just staying within, a sense of fullness, I don't need anything, is really only possible through jnana. And so that is the Utkrishta part of it. So, now we come to an important part. This is almost like the main thing I wanted to do today. So go to verse number 17. We may not have time to go to 18, but let's do that. In 17, स्वसिद्धांत व्यवस्थासु द्वैतिनः निश्चिता दृढ़ं परस्परं विरुध्यन्ते तैहि अयं न विरुध्यते. So he says, Dvaitinaha, the dualists, are firmly concluded on their own set of conclusions, firmly settled on their own set of conclusions, and they contradict each other. This teaching, the Advaitic teaching, is not in conflict with them. So this has to be explored further. Let's go into that. So now we have, let us imagine a discussion between an Advaitin and a Dvaitin. And there are many, many Dvaitins. Dvaitins means people who have a theory. Sankhya is a Dvaiti. Means that Pradhana, which is really like nature, is the one that determines your future. So the Sattva Guna and Rajo Guna and Tamo Guna, based out of that, those are the ones that do that. And the Atma, it has to kind of like be under their control for a while. So it's a Dvaita philosophy. Many of the philosophies do not even admit of Ishvara. They feel that there is just things run by themselves. So for example, in the scientific world and the Nayayikas and etc., they feel that particles alone were created, and we don't know how they were created, but doesn't matter. And also they say, excuse me, that matter and energy are interchangeable. There is nothing completely destroyed. We're going to go into this in the Gita class also, that matter and energy are mutually interchangeable, but nothing changes, and you are just an observer of this, and you are different from the matter and energy. So there's a Dvaita philosophy. Then then you have yoga. So the yoga, Kapila's followers feel that really speaking, any thoughts have to be under control, and so thoughts are a problem, and so you just need to be slowly through yama, niyama, and everything else and so on. Slowly you go into samadhi, and so therefore any thoughts are a problem. So thoughts also are kind of like separate from you. And so these are all the dualists. Okay? And they, and in fact, so here, even within the Vedic system, the Vaishnavas and the Shaivas, they fight with each other. That Vishnu is the main one. So if you go to Krishna consciousness people and so on, they feel Vishnu is the God, and Shiva is also not as important. If you go to the Shivas, they say, what are you talking about? Shiva is the main one, not Vishnu or anything. People that go into Ganesha, they feel Ganesha is the main one. So everybody has a different idea, and they don't really agree with each other. So now supposing there is a discussion going on, and you are participating, they'll say, who are you? So you say, well, I'm an Advaitin. Oh, I don't know what exactly it means, but it's clearly you are not on. Do you believe in Vishnu? So we say we don't really have a Vishnu as our main goal. Then you are not at the real stuff. So you just go away. So there is a lot of problems in respecting and so on and so forth. And so you can tell them, listen, you don't know what you're talking about. I know what I'm talking about. Now you go to them and they say, we say the same thing. You don't know what you're talking about. We know what we are talking about. And this happens in fact, this is exactly what happens in our life. This when you go for parties and so on and so forth. So is the situation. What about that? So here Gaudapadaji says, and also elsewhere also, that listen, you cannot fight with people that are reflections at a lower reality. This is like water fighting with a wave. And so there's no reason to fight. There's no reason to participate in any discussion. Don't do it. Just be. And if you want to have a discussion, it should be to educate your own mind about the problems of duality. Nothing to do with putting them down. Nothing to do with that. This is exactly what he says. Parasparam virudhyante. They all fight with each other. Taihi iyam na virudhyate. I don't have any problems with that, because this is a lower level thing that they are fighting. I'm talking about something with a higher level of reality, and I know that if they don't want to accept it, fine, that's okay. Let them do what they want to do it. So it's not a question of winning or anything like that. You just are focused on the reality of yourself. This is the whole idea about. So this constitutes the vision of Advaita. The vision of Advaita means that it's not the absence of Dvaitam. It is that the Dvaitam is included in a. So the Dvaitam is a Brahma within the Brahma. Brahma within the Brahma. So going back to the example of the rope and snake, snake vision is a Brahma. So there's no real competition between the rope and the snake. No real competition. It's not as though we are just. If there is competition, it is just to understand what is the reality of the vastu that you're looking at. That's all that you need to do. But if you do that, then you find that the one of the vision goes away. It was temporary, it was a pratiti. Here Swami Maheshanji makes a very beautiful point, really amazing. He says, I think it is given as part of 17 or 18, I wrote it down, let me see. Just give me 1 minute. Yeah, it's more on 18. I might as well took 18 also, I think it is close to it. Yeah, let's take 18 also. Advaitam paramarthaha hi Dvaitam tad bhedaha uchyate tesham ubhayatha dvaitam tena ayam na viruddhyate. So, non-duality indeed is the absolute reality, and duality is said to be its manifestation only. For dualists, duality both empirically and absolutely exists. Hence, this teaching is not in conflict with them. This is a more complicated sentence. The idea is the same, but there is a certain aspect of it which is given. So, what Swami Maheshananji pointed out is that we begin with a pratiti. So the word pratiti is used. Pratiti means an experience, something that is presented to you in your life. You see something. You see something. And your sense organs and your mind, and they all work together to analyze what you are experiencing. This is called pratiti. So again, the example of the rope and snake, you have a pratiti of a snake. This is how it appears to you. Now the only question is whether the pratiti is real or not. Okay, that's the only thing that you have to do. Okay. So now you can say that upon analysis, in the case of a rope and snake, the rope also appears in front of you. So you use your eyes and your mind to determine the reality of the vastu in front of you. It is not a snake. It is. Why is it not a snake? Because you know the difference between Brahma and Prama. By this time, this should be very clear to you. A Brahma is something that until it is analyzed and approached, it appears. This is the very situation of Maya. When it is approached and analyzed, if it disappears, that means it was Brahma. If Brahma appears not to be there until it is approached and analyzed. And when you approach and analyze it, if it is there, that means it is Brahma. This is what is clear. So now, everything in the world starts with a pratiti. And now the question is, what is the nature of the pratiti? Okay? And now Swami Maheshananji pointed out, this is something very interesting, is you cannot have a pratiti about Atma. And in fact, the very first verse of the Dakshinamurti Stotram that we studied, which is, for those of you that attend that class, the title of the verse is Atma Pratyak Swarupam. It means the Atma is never manifest as such. It is always unmanifest. This is a very important thing, and always this needs to be appreciated again and again, because what happens is I am always in the habit of being involved with pratitis. I'm only an experience hunter. And so experience means pratiti. And the Atma is not a pratiti, because it never manifests itself. Yes, it manifests itself as a reflection. That's a different thing. So Atma is never a pratiti. And so what that means is, why is it important here? Because in this discussion, which is presented in the 18th verse, he says, no one can argue with you that the pratiti of Atma is wrong. You see, there is no reason to have a discussion with someone, because you can only have a discussion about something which is a pratiti. You see, something is seen, and the question is, what is the nature of what is being seen? There you can have a discussion. But Atma is not a pratiti. It's not subject to being a pratiti. It is in fact the person who is responsible for the pratiti. This being the case, there is no grounds for discussion or criticism by anyone else about the Advaita. This is the Nishkarsha. This is the end result. Because everyone is discussing only about experiences. Atma is not an experience. So therefore it is foolish. First of all, it is not possible for anyone to criticize Advaita. And foolish if they do, because they are not talking about the reality. They are talking about the expression of reality as a reflection. You see, that is a point that Swami Maheshananji made very beautifully. And this is the way sometimes I give more credence to Swami Maheshananji's teachings and so on. But I think the fact of the matter is that they have done a marvelous job of transcribing his thoughts in a language that, of course, appeals to me. Whereas I never had a chance to do that with Swami Dayanandji. It was much more basic, which was important for me to do that. But this level of advanced analysis and so on was never available to me, because I didn't spend that much time with him. I only was there for 2.5 years. After that, I'm running my life and so on. But this this kind of a, and I'm very happy that how well the books have been written to express the subtleties of Swamiji's thoughts. This is what I really appreciate. And it's the same vision. There's no difference at all. Nowhere do I say, no, Swami Dayanand said, did. Never. It's the same vision. It's just a matter of how it is expressed. Really appreciate that. And so when I read this, and this is like a 7-page commentary on just on the 18. I was doing that yesterday. It's for the second time. I did this in 2011. Yeah, on 8, 16, 11. And now again yesterday. And this is the point that he made. That in terms of the dialogue that takes place in between people, it's not possible to have a basic ground to have a dialogue because it is not an experience. Atma is not an experience. Anyway, so with that I'll end. And so I think what I'm going to try to do to speed up things, as I did today, is again to take groups of verses that are part of the same concept, and then just speed through it and not really go through individually each verse and so on. That requires a lot of homework, work ahead of time for me, but I'm happy to do that. It's good for me. So this is the crux of, I think, the title of this Karika, which is Advaita Prakaranam. What does Advaita really mean? And hopefully with these kinds of study, your thoughts will be very clear in terms of how you approach other people, discussions, your own vision of what Advaita is. And so this is what it's all about. The more you study, the more you see, the more you analyze, that vision becomes clearer and clearer. That's the process we have to go through. Om Swasti Prajabhyav Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Go Brahmanebhya Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu Kale Varshatu Parjanyah Prithvi Sasya Shalini Desho Yam Kshevarahitah Brahmana Santu Nirbhaya Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Nityo Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Yeah.
So who manifests the Atma in the reflecting medium?
So that is just a swabhava of the human being. So swabhava means that whenever you have a creation, that is the creation. So it's not a conscious thing. That is always the case as it is. So both the nirguna and the saguna are always present. This is exactly what we're going to talk about in the Gita class today. So they're always there. So the only question is whether you recognize the nirguna as sort of like the reality where saguna is the non-reality. That's the only game. Otherwise there's no change. So it's not as though someone is putting you into. This is all, Ishvara is the one who is with everybody. Is in everybody. Is everybody. Not only is in, but is everyone. So that's what it is. It's an interesting game that we have to all discover. We start with having a vision of isolation and end up in having something which is non-isolated, which is sarva vyapaka, all pervasive and so on, right?
So when we study Tashtavakra Gita,
Yeah,
we're studying that the binary vision is Atma versus Anatma.
correct.
So those two are
It's also binary for a while.
okay.
You're reducing multiplicity to 3 to 2 and then to 1.
To one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to make a comment that you said the body and mind is, we get it according to our prarabdha karma. And I think when you understand that philosophy, it becomes easier now to accept other people's behavior.
Yeah,
Sometimes they just don't
Yeah,
have control over that.
absolutely. And not only other people, your own behavior.
Yeah. That's true.
Even that's very important.
Yes, yes.
Because sometimes you have a critical, overly critical view of yourself that I'm not able to do this, and why can't I do this, and so on and so forth. So seeing the play of prarabdha, which all comes from the Ishvara, there's certain smile has to come from within you and say, it's okay, it's all right, nothing no big about it, yeah. And then you're right, as you extend that to the others as well. Yeah, yeah.
You said earlier that person is responsible for patiti,
Yeah,
and that fits right into the Drishti Srishtivada. You create a world, you create a world and therefore it is. Otherwise it is not there.
correct, yeah.
Amazingly, the recent article in Science is coming up to the same conclusion. And that is just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Science is coming to that conclusion that it's only there because you see it or you think about it. Otherwise, it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
It is so profound,
yeah,
and yet it is so on the hand. It is so difficult to accept.
yes, it is, yeah. I think that coming back to the sciences, I just hope that the science can accept, science has, if science was a person, it still has a lot of ego. Because the ego is, we did it. We figured it out. We are smart people. It's like a person saying, I did it. I'm a very smart person. And until that happens, the reality will not really be found, because the consciousness, the Atma, the Sakshi, whatever you call it, Brahman, is only possible when you completely negate the fact that I am this. In other words, the ego has to completely disappear. Even if it is udaram antaram kurute tasya bhayam bhavati. Even if you hang on to a little bit, even if the science says this is for the whole humanity, this is a very great vision and so on. Okay, so I'm very selfless, so I'm giving it to everybody and so on and so forth. But I did it. You didn't do it, fool. It was Ishvara that did it. Will they ever accept it? They have to accept the authority of the Vedas. I don't know that. It hasn't happened in the last 5,000 years. Is it ever going to happen? We doubt it very much. So that difference will stay, even though they seem to be coming closer and so on. That's the situation. Yeah, Kalpana.
So I feel like I am or I know that I am at this Madhyama stage where I'm trying to
Correct.
reverse the binary form.
Yeah,
So Upasana is important for me.
yes.
So which Upasana or which Stotras, Nam Japas would fall under the Vedic religion according to Swami T, and not the religion of the masses,
Correct.
out of everything that we are doing?
Yeah. So I would say that Vedic chanting so Taittiriya Upanishad, all of the Upanishads that lend into for chanting with swaras are the right upasana. And the right upasana would mean that you infuse the chanting with as much meaning that you can see. And so the Panchakosha Viveka in there, same thing with so I would say that really reciting by heart some of the major Upanishads, Kena Upanishad, not that bigger Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad is another one. Katho is more difficult because it is prose, is the right upasana that I think. Vedic upasanas are, yeah.
And what about Nam Japas, like Dakshinamurti Nam Japa that we do, or
Absolutely.
Rudram
Yeah.
and
So I think all of that is very appropriate. All very appropriate because they bring out the oneness of the Jiva and Ishvara. So the 108 names that we do, once we understand it, you will see. So all that is very appropriate. Yeah.
Rudram too, yeah.
Sorry?
Rudram also.
Rudram, of course. Yeah. So these are all Vedic. Anything which is given in given in Vishnu Sahasranama also. And so the upasanas given in Puranas can come later, but really all the upasanas given in the Vedas is the right one. Yeah.
So why would the upasanas given in the Puranas come later? Because
No, later means in your own priority. You might give,
Oh, okay, that's
yeah, not in
Yeah.
terms of time.
Right.
I'm just saying later means, later is not a good word.
okay.
Hopefully you will not need it.
Right, yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I was thought.
Yeah, no, that's not the right word. I didn't say that right. Okay, very good. So are we meeting next week? We are? What is the day today? Today is 14th.
So 20th, 21st.
We are meeting on the 21st,
I
right?
think so.
Okay, then 1 week after that, I think we do. Okay, good. Thanks.